February 10th, 1980. Columbia River, Washington State, a sandy stretch of beach called Tina Bar, 8 miles downstream from Vancouver. An 8-year-old boy named Brian Ingram is on a family picnic. He is raking the sand to build a campfire pit when his fingers hit something hard about 2 inches under the surface. He digs it out. It is a pack of cash, soft and rotted at the edges, held together by rubber bands that have nearly disintegrated. He digs a little more. There is another pack, and another. By the time his father walks over, there are 3 bundles of $20 bills sitting in the sand, dollar amounts fused together by 9 years underground and underwater. His father calls the FBI. Within hours, agents who have not closed a single lead on this case in 9 years are standing on that riverbank with tweezers and evidence bags, because the serial numbers on those bills match a list that has been sitting in a file cabinet since November 1971. They match the only ransom ever paid to a hijacker who jumped out of a passenger plane at 10,000 feet in the middle of a rainstorm over the Pacific Northwest and was never seen again. The agents standing on that beach in 1980 are not relieved. They are confused because the money should not be there, not in that condition, not in that location. And the moment they understand why, they will realize that 9 years of investigation, thousands of leads, and one of the most famous manhunts in American history have been pointing in the wrong direction the entire time. This is the story of D.B. Cooper. It is the story of the only unsolved skyjacking in American aviation history, and it is the story of how a few $1,000s buried in river sand told investigators more about what didn't happen than anything they had learned about what did. Before we go to that riverbank, you need to understand what happened on the night of November 24th, 1971. Because everything the FBI built afterward, every theory, every suspect, every closed door depended on getting that night right. And it turns out they didn't. It is not about the money. A stack of $20 bills is paper and ink. It cannot fly a plane. It cannot survive a fall from 2 miles up. It cannot explain how a man in a business suit and sunglasses walked onto a commercial airliner, handed a flight attendant a note, and then simply ceased to exist. The question the FBI has been asking for 50 years is not who had the money. The question is what happened in the 11 minutes between the moment a man opened the rear door of a Boeing 727 at 10,000 feet over Southwest Washington and the moment ground radar lost the aircraft's tail number for good. At 7:35 p.m. on Thanksgiving Eve, 1971, a man calling himself Dan Cooper purchased a one-way ticket from Portland to Seattle on Northwest Orient Airlines, Flight 305. He paid $20 in cash. He boarded under no scrutiny whatsoever, because in November 1971, you did not need identification to fly inside the United States. You did not walk through a metal detector. You did not open your briefcase for anyone. He was a man in his mid-40s, dark hair, dark suit, carrying a briefcase and wearing what witnesses would later describe, with a strange specificity that has never gone away, as ordinary. Shortly after takeoff, he handed flight attendant Florence Schaffner a note. She assumed it was a phone number from a man flirting with her and put it in her purse without reading it. He leaned toward her and said quietly, "Miss, you better look at that note. I have a bomb." She read it. He opened the briefcase just enough to show her wires and red sticks. Then he gave his demands in the same flat, unbothered voice he had used to order a bourbon and soda 40 minutes earlier. $200,000 in cash, 4 parachutes. And when the plane landed in Seattle to refuel, he wanted no police, no FBI, no flashing lights on the tarmac. Northwest Orient's president authorized the payment within the hour. The airline's reasoning was simple and has been quoted in FBI files ever since. A passenger's life was worth more than the company's quarterly earnings, and they would rather pay a ransom than read about a bomb going off over a city. The money arrived, 10,000 unmarked $20 bills, weighing approximately 20 pounds, with every single serial number microfilmed by the FBI before it ever left the bank. That detail, the microfilming, is the only reason the story has an ending at all. The plane landed in Seattle. The other passengers were released. Cooper got his money and his parachutes. He ordered the plane back into the air, instructed the pilots to fly toward Mexico at the lowest safe altitude, under 10,000 feet, with the landing gear down and the wing flaps lowered 15 degrees, a configuration that no passenger jet uses for cruising flight because it is unbearably slow and unbearably loud. It is also, not coincidentally, the only configuration in which a person could survive opening the rear stairway of a 727 in flight. At roughly 8:13 p.m., somewhere over the dense, freezing, roadless forest of southwest Washington, a warning light on the cockpit instrument panel flickered. It indicated that the aft stairway door had been opened. The crew, following his own instructions not to look back, did not see him go. They felt the plane shift slightly, what the pilot would later describe as a bump in the pressure. They did not feel him land, nobody did. He fell into a moonless, rain-soaked wilderness, wearing a business suit, loafers, and a parachute he had asked for so casually that the FBI would later become convinced he knew exactly nothing about skydiving, and then the trail simply stopped. What followed was not a manhunt in the way the word usually implies. It was an exercise in mapping silence. The FBI, alongside the Army, the Air Force, and local sheriffs, conducted the largest ground and air search in Pacific Northwest history. Helicopters crisscrossed an 18-mile radius of timber so thick that searchers on the ground sometimes could not see the searcher standing 30 feet away. National Guard troops walked it on foot for weeks. They found nothing. No parachute, no suit, no briefcase, no body. The case was given a code name, NORJAC, for Northwest Hijacking, and it produced one of the strangest pieces of trivia in FBI history, the suspect's name itself. A wire service reporter misheard the alias Dan Cooper during a hurried phone call and reported it as D.B. Cooper. The mistake outran the correction. Within a week, the wrong name had become permanent, printed in headlines from coast to coast, and the FBI, for half a century, has simply had to live with calling its own most famous fugitive by a name he never actually used. For 9 years, the file grew and the case went nowhere. More than 1,000 suspects were investigated and cleared. Letters arrived claiming responsibility, most of them obvious hoaxes, a few unsettlingly specific. The skyjacking inspired a wave of copycats so immediate and so severe that within 18 months, the United States required all commercial aircraft to install a mechanical device, nicknamed the Cooper vane, that physically prevents the rear stairway of a 727 from being lowered in flight. One man with a briefcase and a fake name changed how every airliner on Earth is built. And still, nobody knew where he landed, whether he survived the jump or whether he was even alive. Then came February 1980 and an 8-year-old boy with a rake. The discovery at Bar should have solved the case. It did almost the opposite. Forensic examiners confirmed the bills were genuine ransom money within days, matched precisely against the microfilmed serial numbers from 1971. But the location and condition of the cash created a problem that the FBI's own physical evidence response team could never fully resolve. Bar sits on the Columbia River, roughly 40 miles southwest of where investigators believed Cooper had jumped, based on the timing of the stairway warning light and the plane's known flight path that night. 40 miles is not a rounding error. It is the difference between a man who jumped into dense forest near a place called Lake Merwin and money that somehow traveled underwater, downstream, across a completely different drainage system to a beach that empties into the Columbia rather than into the Lewis River, which was the route any debris from the believed jump zone would naturally take. Geologists brought in by the FBI in the 1980s ran sediment analysis on the soil layers around the buried cache. Their conclusion only deepened the mystery. The bills appeared to have been deposited at Bar through dredging operations conducted by the Army Corps of Engineers in the mid-1970s, meaning the money had likely been sitting somewhere else entirely, perhaps in the Lewis River. For years before machinery scooped it up, mixed it with riverbed silt, and redeposited it 40 miles away without anyone noticing. Which means the discovery on that beach in 1980 told the FBI almost nothing about where Cooper landed. What it told them, far more unsettlingly, was that nobody had found him, his parachute, his suit, or any trace of a human being anywhere along the actual jump corridor in 9 years of searching, while 3 small bundles of cash had drifted, been dredged, and resurfaced for a child to find by accident. The lead investigator on the case for most of its active life was an FBI agent named Ralph Himmelsbach, a meticulous, famously blunt man who would spend decades afterward insisting in interviews that Cooper had died on impact, that the wilderness he jumped into in November, at night, in a rainstorm, wearing loafers and a parachute he likely did not know how to steer, was simply not survivable. Himmelsbach called him, without much patience for the public's romantic fascination, a rotten, sleazy, no-good criminal, a man who deserved exactly 0 credit for surviving, because in Himmelsbach's professional judgment, he hadn't. But the public never fully accepted that ending, and the FBI's own case file, even after it was officially closed in July 2016, never definitively proved it either. No body was ever recovered in the search corridor. No remains have ever been matched to the case in 50 years of hikers, hunters, and construction crews turning up old bones across the Pacific Northwest. The only physical trace of D.B. Cooper that has ever been authenticated is the bundle of bills, an 8-year-old boy found on a beach that by the FBI's own geological analysis was likely nowhere near where he came down. Brian Ingram, the boy who found the money, eventually received a portion of it back as a settlement, since the insurance company that had paid out Northwest Orient's claim had a competing legal interest in the recovered cash. He sold several of the bills at auction decades later, oddly preserved artifacts of a crime that has no other physical evidence attached to it at all. The rest of the case remains, in the FBI's own words from the day they closed active investigation, unsolved. What the Tina Bar discovery really did, in the end, was not answer the question everyone wanted answered. It reframed the question entirely. For 9 years, the assumption had been that finding the money would mean finding the man. Instead, the money turned up 40 miles from where logic said it should be, deposited by river dredging rather than by a man wading out of the forest, and the agents standing on that beach in February 1980 understood, with a kind of grim clarity that doesn't show up in the official press releases, that they were no closer to D.B. Cooper than they had been on Thanksgiving morning in 1971. They had found his money, they had not found him. And the gap between those two facts is where this case has lived for 50 years, and where it lives still. If you have any theories, or if your family ever passed down a story about that Thanksgiving in 1971, the comments are the place for it. Cases like this stay open because people keep paying attention to the details everyone else stopped looking at. Subscribe if you want the next case.